you, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I need you, oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Where sin runs deep, your grace is more. Where grace is found is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my song to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. When I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Oh Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Hey, Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you.
Hey, Restore Church, Pastor Dave here, and I've got some announcements for you. You are watching this online, but you could be joining us for an in-person service. That's right, 9:15 or 10:45. We would love to see your face. Don't worry, I won't get that close to you if I see you for an in-person service, but we'd love to see you in person at the Tall Corn in the ballroom, 9:15, 10:45. Look forward to seeing you. Ladies, you have an event coming up. It is the If Gathering. It is March 5th and 6th. That's a Friday evening and part of the day Saturday. I've heard good things about it. I have never been invited. Maybe this will be the year that you invite me. I don't know. But March 5th and 6th, Friday, Saturday, mark your calendars. If Gathering, it'll be held at the church. And you'll see all the specific details come out over the next couple of weeks. Lastly, giving. As a church, we exist through the generosity of you guys. That's right. Without your generosity, we can't turn the lights on and keep heating the building. So we thank you for that generosity, and just want to remind you there are Three ways to give. You can give through the website, you can give via text message, or you can give through the snail mail. And all of your gifts, they go to our 3Ps. They go to the people who run and support the ministry. They go to the place that we meet, and they go to our 4 passions. So thank you for giving. God bless.
Hey, Restore, this is Pastor Ryan. I'm so excited that you're here with us today, worshiping and celebrating what God has done in our lives. I'm not sure where you're listening at, or where you're at. Maybe you're in your home, living room, kitchen, in your office, at work. Maybe you're not in Iowa. Maybe you're in another state. Will you drop us a message? Just let us know, comment where you're listening from, and that'd be really cool. We just want to know where you're at, where you're listening from today. The series that we're in right now is called More. We're looking at the miracles of Jesus, and this increase, this idea of Jesus, when he performs these miracles of increase, these miracles of more, what does it do for our lives? What does it do for those around Jesus in those moments? And tonight, if you probably, the backdrop might look different to you. I'm actually recording in my basement. And not in my basement, but in the basement of the rental unit that we're at. We've been displaced from the derecho, and we are in a rental home right now. And I'm in the basement filming, and I'm excited to share with you what I have on my heart, what God's been speaking to me in this series on Increase, the More of Jesus. When I was in elementary school, like many kids, I took swimming lessons. And what I love about these swimming lessons, what I love about these swimming lessons was I got to be in the water with my friends, and I got to swim and learn all these new techniques. And one of the things I didn't like was the deep end. I didn't mind jumping off and getting into the water and swimming around, jumping off the diving board or off the sides, but I was really nervous when it came to jumping off and swimming distances. And this 1 year I remember made a really big impact in my life. And I remember they would divide our swimming groups into spaces. And so we would have one group would be on one end, on the shallow end, and then as your group kind of advanced in swimming, they'd move you further from the shallow end and more towards the deep end. And I was more towards the middle. And so what they would do is they would have us swim the width of the pool, not the length of the pool. So we have the width from one side to the other for our lessons. And we would kind of be on part way on the shallow side, where it was, for me, for our group, it was right on the edge of where you could touch, and went to the deep where you couldn't touch. And I remember after a few days of lessons, we started to advance on different strokes. And so you'd be learning all the ways to swim, where there's the backstroke, the butterfly, these kinds of things. And I remember being terrified, because in these moments, there were times when I couldn't touch the bottom. And so in my fear and my anxiety, in my nervousness, I would make up an excuse to go use the bathroom. I would tell my instructor that I had to go use the bathroom. I'd tell my instructor that I wasn't feeling well or something. And I found out that if I timed it right, if I found out that I could avoid the part of the lesson that I really didn't like. So I would do all the fun stuff at the beginning. We get in the water, jump in, kind of get used to the temperature of the water, get used to being in there. And then he would say, all right, guys, now it's time to swim. I want you to do the front stroke all the way across and back. Then I want you to do the back stroke there and back. And I want you to be in a place in the pool here where you can't touch. And my body would start to seize up and be afraid, and I would do what I could to avoid that moment. So I'd go use the bathroom, and I'd sit in there, and I'd have the timed out where I knew that I had come out and they'd be done with that part of the lesson. Eventually, the instructor caught on to what I was doing and kind of figured out that I was doing that. And so he would, everybody else would go ahead and do that part of the lesson. And then when I came out to jump in the pool for what I thought was the fun time and the good moments, I would have to redo those things that the rest of the students had already done. See, I love to swim. I love to be in the water and be a part of it. I just was so afraid. I was so afraid not to touch. I was afraid to push out and be away from the space where I could touch and be safe. Whether it was jumping in, but knowing how close I was to the edge, where I could swim and kick and be back to the edge, or whether it was jumping off the diving board, but knowing that I had just enough time to get back where it was safe. In this series, we're looking at the miracles of increase, the miracles of more of Jesus. And specifically, we're looking at this today. We're looking at Luke 5. This is what it says. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, and for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." "Master," Simon replied, "we worked hard all night. We didn't catch a thing, but if you say so, I'll let the nets down again." And this time their nets were so full they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. His partner James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. I always like to think, I wonder what it was like to be there in that moment. And a lot of times the stories in Scripture actually tell you what is said. Right? They tell you the story that Jesus said. They tell you the story of what is going on in this moment. But at this particular moment, when Jesus shares with the crowd as they press in on him, nothing is said. We don't have a written account of what Jesus actually says to the crowd and what Simon hears. See, whatever has been said, whatever Jesus is sharing in this moment is so captivating. People are literally pressing in on Jesus to the point where he has nowhere else to go. He's literally backed up to the Sea of Galilee. And as he's backed up there, he realizes, I don't have anywhere else to go. Yet they're still coming. And so he sees a boat and he asks Simon, "Simon, will you push me out into this boat just a little ways so the crowds don't push me into the water and I get wet and fall in?" So Simon lets him in his boat and he pushes him out just a little ways so Jesus can share with the crowds around him. I try to imagine what it would have been like to listen to Jesus as he's beginning his ministry. He's not been doing this very long. I try to think to myself as I'm looking out over the crowd, getting closer to Jesus just so I can hear the words that he's sharing. What is he saying? What is Jesus saying in this moment that's captivating the crowd so much that they're pressing in on him to the degree where he needs to get into a boat and back up? See, that's why I want to be a fly on the wall. That's why I wish I could be there to hear the words of Jesus. What is he saying? See, what Jesus does is amazing here. See, in this moment, after he's done teaching and sharing the good news with those around him, he asks Simon, push me out into the deep. Push out into the deep and drop the nets. You see, Jesus kind of shares this moment and he says to him, baby steps, Simon. See, right away he doesn't call Simon and say, Simon, I want you to push out into the deep. See, he says, Simon, will you just push me out a little bit? Simon, will you just push me out just a little bit? See, Jesus takes the advice of Bob Wiley when he says, baby steps here, Simon. Simon, I'm not going to ask you for everything. I'm not going to ask you to immediately push out in the deep, but will you push me out just a little bit? Jesus is done teaching. And he looks at Peter, Simon Peter, and he says, will you push out into the deep and drop your nets? Which is an interesting thought. It's an interesting moment that Jesus, who's a carpenter, is asking the fishermen, the professional fishermen, the people that probably fish their entire lives, to do something. What did Jesus say? What was his message to the crowd? What was his message to Simon and James and John? What was his message that Peter said, all right, I'll push out into the deep. I'll push out into the deep and drop my nets. But Jesus, I'm telling you, I've already done it. I spent all night doing this. Okay. And the crowd waited. The crowd waited as Simon pushes out into the deep and drops the net. They wait. Now, I'm not a master of many things. I'm good at a lot of stuff, but I'm not a master at really anything. I'm good at things. I'm good at different aspects of stuff in my life, and I've been a chaplain for almost 8 years, and for 4 of those years, little over 4 years, I worked as a hospice chaplain. Now, I'm nowhere near an expert to be what it means to be a chaplain. There's people that have far more education than I do, and far more experience than I do, but I have a good idea of what it takes to be a good chaplain. I have a good idea of what it takes to be a hospice chaplain. And so it's over the last 3 years of working in hospice and working at the Iowa Veterans Home, I met 2 young men, 2 men that were new chaplains. Neither of them had really done this before, and I remember in my first few interactions with them, both of these guys shared with me how to be a chaplain. And they shared with me, Chaplain Ryan, I think you really need to do it like this. That's the way to really take care of people. I really think that this is the best way to interact with families as you're telling them their loved one's dying. And I remember as they shared these things with me, they weren't actually good things. They were pretty terrible ideas. And as I stood there listening to what they had to say to me, I kind of just nodded, okay. I kind of nodded this with this advice of this help me. I'm just trying to help you, Chaplain Ryan. Now, in the moment, I just took the advice and just nodded my head and said, thank you. I appreciate your comments, and let me just think about those kinds of things for a while. But in the back of my mind, I thought to myself, who did this guy think he is? Does he not know that I've been doing this a lot longer than he has? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I've been there. I've done that. And I wonder if when Jesus asked Simon to push out into the deep and drop his nets, because that's what Jesus says, I wonder if Simon felt like this at all. Who is this teacher? I know fishing. Well, I normally know fishing. Last night didn't go very well. We didn't catch any fish, but I normally know fishing. I normally do. Normally we catch fish. Jesus, I know fishing, all right, Jesus? You stick to teaching and sharing and being that, and even carpentry on the side when you need a little extra money, but leave the fishing to me. See, the problem with that moment, the problem with that attitude, that thought process, is we stay on the shore. We miss hearing things from people around us, even though they might not have the experience at that we do. We stop because we don't listen. See, even if they may not have the experience we do, they might have an insight into something that it's about. Those that don't always look like me, vote like me, think like me, have a background like I do. See, they still have something to offer to me, even if it might not be right every time. But see, I like to be safe. My life, I've played it safe often. See, Jesus has asked me, hey, Ryan, I want you to push out into the deep. You're really close to the shore. You can touch. Will you push out into the deep? I want you to have conversations with somebody that doesn't always believe like you. Will you push out? Will you step out and sit at their table, engaging in a conversation that's going to make you feel uncomfortable? Albert Tate says this: will you sit at the table with somebody that will challenge you, change you? See, will you sit at a table laying down your fears, sacrificing your comfort in order to hear that other person's pain and experience? See, I think that for many in the church, myself included, this is a space and a place we like to be shallow. We like to stay shallow in this conversation, in this table, in this life. We refuse to push off into the deep of conversations and places that won't make us comfortable. Jesus says, push off into the deep and drop your nets. What did Jesus say? What was his teaching that what did Jesus have to say to Simon and the crowd that Simon said, all right, I'm going to trust you? What could he have said that moved Simon to trust Jesus? As they pushed off into the deep, as they pushed away from shore, they dropped their nets. I can just see Simon dropping the nets, looking back towards the crowd, looking back towards James and John, giving the shrug like, nothing. I tried it, Jesus. There's nothing here. I told you I've been here before. I tried this all night, Jesus. See? Nothing. Then the nets start to pull. the boat starts to rock. At first, just a little bit. At first, it just pulls a little bit, then more. Then more until the boat is starting to pull down as if it's going to be sinking into the water. The nets are so heavy as they pull them in, the boat starts to capsize, starts to sink down under the weight of the catch. So much so that Simon's screaming out to James and John and the other boat, says, hurry, get over here. And they go over and they start to fill the boat, and both boats are so full of fish they start to almost sink. Jesus is right. Jesus offered Simon to come to the deep. Simon took the steps and is dwelling in this moment with Jesus. He comes running to the beach after getting all the fish into the boat. He comes running and falls down at the feet of Jesus. Says, "You get away from me! What do you have to do with me? I'm a sinner. Don't come near me." And Jesus says, Simon, if you only knew, man. Simon, if you only had an idea, a glimpse of what the deep is going to be like. Man, Simon, you're no longer fishing for fish, man. You're no longer going to be a fisherman for fish. You're going after people. I've got something so radical, so amazing, so beautiful, so deep for you. You have no idea. Follow me. See, in the shallow, you get shallow. When you stay in the safety and the comfort of the shallow, that's all you get. Where do you dwell? See, Jesus provides this increase of more, but it's not about the fish. Sure, he provides this amazing increase of fish, but it's deeper than that. He says, Simon, I have something more for you. I want to take you deeper. Deeper than just fishing. Deeper than just making a living fishing here on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. Man, Simon, I have something so... You're coming and following me. Where do you dwell? I never really learned how to really swim. I mean, I have these dreams and these ideas when I go out into the pool, when I'm swimming with my sons, that I'm Michael Phelps. That I think I'm Michael Phelps swimming these amazing laps, and I think that when I'm doing these different, strokes, that I've got it, right? Like I know I'm just out there just swimming, like I think I'm amazing, and I can imagine if there's a camera panning down on me swimming, it does not look like Michael Phelps. What it looks like is somebody trying to swim that has no ability and is trying to mangle all of these different swimming techniques into this disgusting mess. See, the problem with the moments as a child is I never took the time to dwell on the deep moments, to go into the deep and to trust the instructors and the people around me knew what they were talking about. To learn how to actually use those strokes, to learn to swim the right way. See, I can swim, but my swimming has defects. I have learned to swim, but I had to make things up as I go. See, rather than swimming in a straight line and having this amazing water cutting ability, I swim with defects. I swim with this unnatural technique that's just, it's not what it was designed to do. It takes longer for me to get where I was supposed to go. See, it wasn't about the fish for Simon and James and John. What it was about was pushing away from the shore. Pushing away from where it was safe and comfortable to a place where you can actually dwell. To be consumed by the presence of God. Something deeper than us. See, Psalms 27:4, David is calling out to God and saying, the only thing, the one thing I desire and need from you is to be in your presence. And that moment of presence, that moment of being consumed by the presence of God and sitting in his presence is about being enveloped in who he is for you. The more that Jesus had for Simon was to push away. The more that Jesus had for Simon was to not stay on the areas that made him feel safe. See, the more that Jesus calls us to do is to step away from the shore. See, when you're in a boat, a canoe, and you push away from the shore, you usually have a stick or an oar, and you push, taking away your safety moment. See, the sign of spiritual maturity is that to be in his presence is to be changed and challenged. See, safety is not the sign of spiritual maturity. Being safe on the shores, being safe where your feet can touch isn't a sign of spiritual maturity. And although a lot of us, we initially start out there, that's not the more that God has for us. The more that God has for us is to go deep and to push away from the shore, to drop our nets, to drop ourselves and be consumed, to dwell in his presence. The more Jesus calls us to is to lift our hands in surrender. You push out and you put your hands up and say, I surrender it to you. I'm going to dwell in your presence. I'm going to dwell in this moment. I'm going to drop myself into the deep of who you are, Jesus. See, dwelling in the deep with God makes us more like him. And it makes us better. It's removing the hate and the greed, the slander, those things that are holding us back onto the shore, holding us back to God, asking us to push us deeper. See, Jesus called Simon not just to the deep waters to fish, but the deep waters of his soul care. See, for the past year, God has been calling me to be deeper in who he is. And that deeper means a lot of things, and that deeper means going and sitting at places that make me uncomfortable, that make me think and ask questions and hear perspectives from people that aren't like me. Hear their heart, hear their pain, hear the cries that they are asking God to do in their lives. This table that God has given to us to invite people around calls us to go deeper. This table, as we lay ourselves on the altar, this table that he has for us is covered in his redeeming blood, but he calls us to stretch that to those around us. My swimming strokes, if you watch me swim, is almost as if I'm swimming with a limp. I'm swimming this unnatural technique that I was not created for, that swimming wasn't created for. But in the same sense, there are times in my spiritual life that my spiritual life has a limp too. Because I refuse to go deep and dwell deep with God. And I stayed too close to the shore. I stayed close to the shore because it was safe and it was easy. See, God does not call us to the safe and easy life. He calls us to dwell in his presence. And in those moments, sometimes when God calls us to something, it is hard. And it is difficult. And it is uncomfortable. And it will cost you something. I wonder what it would look like for you today to push off into the deep of your faith. God is calling you to no longer stay on the shores, to no longer stay in the shallow, but to go and drop your nets into the deep. To go and drop yourself and dwell in the presence of God. That was David's cry in Psalm 27:4. Let me dwell in your presence. That's all I need. Dwell more. What will it look like today if we all went a little bit deeper in the faith God has called us to? To step into the boat and push away from shore.
Peace, bring it all to peace.